Trump's efforts to fight sex trafficking made incredible impact. A 4-day-long anti-human trafficking sting in California's Riverside County concluded on January 28, 2021. It resulted in 64 people arrested and 2 women rescued. According to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, the arrests were part of Operation Reclaim and Rebuild, which is an annual statewide operation. Details of the operation were released in a statement by the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, RCAHT, on February 2nd. RCAHT Task Force members placed decoy advertisements on popular classified advertisement websites commonly used for the solicitation of prostitution. These RCAHT Task Force members then responded to prospective customers who replied to these advertisements. Once an agreement for prostitution was brokered, the customers were arrested upon their arrival at a predetermined meeting location. Separately, the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force in Southern California charged 5 men with sexually exploiting a minor. On February 2nd, following a months-long investigation, Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer said, "No matter how many ways predators continue to try to disguise their sexual abuse of children, the Orange County District Attorney's Office and our law enforcement partners will never stop protecting these vulnerable victims." In early January, officials in Florida announced that more than 70 people were arrested in a human trafficking sting ahead of the Super Bowl in Tampa. Officials posted fake advertisements online to lure the suspects, a similar tactic to the one used by sheriff's deputies in Riverside County.
The victim was living on a small mattress with no bedding, surrounded by animals, animal cages, and animal feces.
Please go home. Look at what your kids are doing online.
Boyens, the founder of Share Together, a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating child sex trafficking.
If you want to destroy the United States of America, how would you do it? Could you destroy the United States of America with a military action? No way. You only are able to break this country morally. And where would you go if you want to strip this country of its future? Its conservative, Judeo-Christian foundational principles for the future. You go to the kids. So when you attack a child in a primal state and you violate that primal instinct, you're thwarting everything. You're changing what they think of life, trust, self-respect, value, love.
Jaco Boyens told NTD on February 5th.
So it's a big orchestration to execute a sting or a bust like what we've just seen in California, and it takes months and months of planning and funding.
And that's why it's very important for both local, state, and federal government to support the fight against sex trafficking, because you cannot do it on your own.
For instance, when a child is, tracked in, let's say, Dallas, Texas, that pimp or predator doesn't keep that child in Dallas, Texas. Now, let's say we find her in Nevada. You now are asking the Dallas Police Department to talk to the Nevada Police Department, and that historically has not happened.
Boyens said, before Trump, no former president in the history of this country has used his platform to denounce the exploitation of children and then appropriate funding. President Trump set up an office in the White House designated and dedicated to fighting sex trafficking. So we've seen an incredible impact over the last 4 years, particularly towards the support for law enforcement.
We've seen a tremendous rise in the apprehension, the arrest of perpetrators and rescue victims under the Trump administration. No question about it. These cases that you're seeing now, such as California, and you'll see some others that are coming out now, they've been 9-10 months in the making.
Boyens said the situation in this regard from now on remains to be seen under the new administration.
This is children. We can't. When we start politicizing this thing, we're lost, because historically there's not been a single civilization on earth that morally, at a sexual level, had sexual moral decay and survived.
Time tells all about election theft. Recently, Time published an article by Molly Ball titled "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election." It explains how the 2020 shadow campaign won the election. The article revealed the intricate details of the behind-the-scenes scheme, using the CCP virus pandemic, mail-in ballots, and big corporations to oust President Trump from the White House. The article used the words cabal and conspiracy to describe the sweeping activities of groups of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies, collectively known as the Shadow Campaign. They had been working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. However, the author also emphasized that these efforts weren't aimed at rigging the election, they were fortifying it. The report stated that Mike Podhorzer, senior advisor to the president of the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest union federation, was the architect of the cabal. Various foundations provided tens of millions of dollars for the election administration. Meanwhile, the death of George Floyd, who was suspected of using counterfeit money and pinned to death by a police officer in Minnesota last May, was also used for political purposes. According to Ball, when the stage was set, business titans, activists, unions, and the media worked together to oust Trump from the White House. They also pressured social media companies to take a harder line against any election fraud-related reports. Ball wrote, "In November 2019, Mark Zuckerberg invited 9 civil rights leaders to dinner at his home, where they warned him about the danger of the election-related falsehoods that were already spreading unchecked." Meanwhile, in Michigan, it was written that 3 former Michigan governors, Republicans John Engler and Rick Snyder, and Democrat Jennifer Granholm, jointly called for Michigan's electoral votes to be cast free of pressure from the White House. Engler, a former head of the Business Roundtable, made phone calls to influential donors and fellow GOP elder statesmen who could press the lawmakers privately. Ball also mentioned that election night began with many Democrats despairing. Trump was running ahead of pre-election polling, winning Florida, Ohio, and Texas easily, and keeping Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania too close to call. But Podhorzer was unperturbed when I spoke to him that night. The returns were exactly in line with his modeling. He had been warning for weeks that Trump voters' turnout was surging. As the numbers dribbled out, he could tell that as long as all the votes were counted, Trump would lose. The contents of the article seem almost inconceivable. So why did Ball decide to write it all? The reason is simple. She said, "As I was reporting this article in November and December, I heard different claims about who should get the credit for thwarting Trump's plot.